The Class 411 was one of the unsung heroes of Bachmann releases. I do like the fact that it only needs a single decoder to be able to make full use of the entire 4-car train. The unit did perform better than expected. In fact, both the 410 and 411 do, despite that single motor bogie. And over the point work, scissor crossings and double slips, it performed really well as well. A big hello to you, so great to see you and hope you are well. I'm Jenny Kirk and this is We're Yard. Now today I've been back having a blooming good rummage in the sales. There's a lot of great deals out there at the moment, and at the time of recording this we've even got some Black Friday deals going on too. So it's well worth having a great look around. In the run up to Christmas, it's a great way of treating somebody you know who's into model railways, or indeed treating yourself, the best kind of treat in my opinion. But today I'm just seeing what sort of deals can be had to have a complete train in a box. And on the TMC sale page, I noticed that they have got both the Class 411 and 410 EMUs. These are Bachmann models, and certainly when they first came out, they really did wow the model trade alike. It's quite unusual to see third rail electrics getting modelled. They're sometimes considered to be a little bit niche. But rule one is your friend, or indeed maybe you would have a loco hauled set, perhaps being taken to works for attention, or maybe on a diversion away from their regular routes due to, say, engineering. So there's a lot of possibilities for you to get away with running these without necessarily having that third rail electric in place. Now, I've been quite a fan of these since they first came out, and I actually bought one of the Class 411s from the first batch, and it was a really smooth runner, and it's nice to see them get re-releases. Now, they come in an absolutely huge box, which contains all 4 parts of this. Now, it can be a little bit tricky to assemble, so in this video, I will take you through putting these together, and I will be doing a DCC fit as well. But it's really great to find some BR Southern Region green versions. It is a livery which I do quite like. I do have a lot of Southern Region locomotives, and these are a great way of pairing up with them. And this livery, for me, was one of the better liveries from that BR period before the corporate blue crept in. And certainly I think the green was a nice hawk back to the Southern Railway days, and these units in particular look particularly great in this. Now TMC very kindly have sent over both the Class 410 and the 411 for us to be able to get a good close look at. Now these are available in blue-grey as well to suit the later era modeler, and for the 410 and the 411 the blue-grey versions are at the same price as quoted in this video, and they do have the same detail package. But I'm doing a lot of waffling here, so without further ado, let's crack open those huge boxes and get our full model train in a box out on the track and put through its paces. Today's video comes in association with Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
For me, the Class 411 was one of the unsung heroes of previous years' Bachmann releases, and it's nice to see that they keep bringing out new versions, although Price is always a talking point in this hobby, and it's great to see that in the TMC sale we can still pick up the 411 at around half the RRP of the new released versions, so it's certainly a great saving. Now, the Class 410 is something that I don't actually remember Bachmann making an announcement about these. They seem to have, for me at least, slipped out under the radar, but they are an incredibly useful unit for Southern Rail electric modelers. Effectively, in model form, we're swapping out one of the centre coaches for that buffet car, but it gives a lot of flexibility. The Class 410s and the 411s would quite often work together in multiple, and it's a great way of being able to finally form up that prototypical train. 8-car and even 12-car units were not unusual in some parts of the London area, and quite often you would find a Class 411 at the front, a 410 in the middle, and then another 411 bringing up the rear. There's also the Class 419, the motor luggage vans available from Bachmann, and if you got some of these, you can mix those in at the end as well to really give a bit of great variety. But I'm really intrigued to see these bargain items that have come through, and in fact, for me, one of the standouts is just how much value for money it feels when you're holding that big outer box that has a complete train in the box. So let's get on and take a look and see what comes in the box and see whether it really is something that you should consider for your layout. We do have a link in the description box down below to take you to TMC where I found these if you really like the look of what you see. And remember, they're in green and blue-grey at the same prices. But please like, share and subscribe and hit that notification bell. But let's take a good close look. Everybody loves a bargain, and I've continued to peruse the sales, and today the TMC autumn sale has turned up a Class 410 4-car EMU set. Now, TMC actually have this in two different liveries, the later blue-grey livery or this earlier Southern Region green, and they're both at exactly the same price. It's $274.99, I believe, for either of them, whichever one you go to. Now, these are different to the earlier releases from Bachmann of the Class 411, and the main difference, which is actually quite visible through the little window on the box, is that these had a buffet car. But I'm going to look them over, and the Class 411, incidentally, is also in the sale from TMC in the Southern Region green, and we will take a little bit of a look at one of those later on, and they're actually under £200, and that's a really good price when you consider that Bachmann have just announced the release of another run of the Class 411s, albeit in the refurbished form, but the version that is in the TMC autumn sale is actually at around something like half the price of those. So if you've been umming and ahhing about getting a Class 411 or a Class 410, then now is probably the best prices you're going to see for these. Now, the box itself, these are an absolute behemoth. They come in a huge outer. In fact, I'm just trying to find the end of the box. And you can see there we've got a catalogue number 31-490. These were the 4BEP and 4-car EMU number 7005 in the BR Southern Region green, and you can see it's got the 21-pin DCC decoder socket, and we will be doing a full DCC fitting on this using the Train-O-Matic 21-pin decoder, and this will have enough functions to be able to control this. Now, unlike some of the earlier DMUs that Bachmann put out, like the 105 and the 108, these actually only need a single decoder for all 4 cars, and that's because they've got special conductive connecting bars that go between the coaches. I've got all 4 of the parts of this EMU out, and when you open that card outer and slide these out, it really does feel like you've got a huge amount for your money. Basically, you've got a complete train in the box. Now, I'm going to put these all to one side, it's very easy to become overwhelmed here. So let's start with the motor unit, and you'll instantly know which one it is. It's substantially heavier than the others. The entire set has a single motor car, and the other three units can be considered to be pulled coaches. And if you're worried about that not having enough grunt to move that along, actually these are quite a great design, and each of these motor units is more than happy to shift the full 4-car train. We've also got some information here as well about DCC fitting, and also about connecting these items together. It's really important to get them in the right order, and we get figure 5 here. This is really important. That's going to come to the fore later on, and if you're looking at that and thinking, well, they all look like coaches to me, well, actually it's quite easy to tell apart the centre two on the class 410, because we've got the buffet car and then we've got the TCK, and just make sure you've got them the right way round. It's easy to spot the buffet and which way round that goes, but the TCK, just look for the pattern of the doors. And when we come to DCC fitting, we've got really easy and lots of space in this motor unit. It also tells us how we fit a speaker, if you want to fit a speaker into this for an aftermarket sound installation, and that hides underneath the internal seating. We've also got some information on changing the ends, and if you want to, for example, change them from the bar lights to the destination numbers, then this is how you would do it. Sliding the rest of this out of the box, and one of the things that is quite obvious and important in this is we've got this extra bag of parts, and these do include the number blind for the other end of the unit if you don't want the red bars for the rear. And then we've also got plenty of the conductor bars that go between the units. They actually give you enough for the full unit twice over, which is quite nice of them. And then we've got the dummy couplers as well, which you can fit if you wish. Taking the motor driving car out here, there's a lot of weight to this, and this is the first thing that really did strike me, is that there's a lot of low down ballast weight, which really does help to give this a lot of grip. Turning it over, we've got a motor bogie at this end. It's all-wheel pickup, but only driven on one end. The other end is just a standard bogie. And when you look at the side, we've got the third rail electric pickups on the motor bogie, but the other bogies, they don't have any of that at all. And that is perfectly as per the prototype. What I really do like about these is the very obvious window frames. These are, again, exactly as per the prototype, with that kind of silver aluminium finish. And I really like the curtains as well that are behind there, with that kind of orange, which really does bring the period feel to this unit. The coaching roundel is on the side, as these are EMU stock, and that is crisp and very clean. The underframe detail too, we can see there, has a lot of separately applied decoration, which really does bring all of this alive, and it's amazing how much depth that gives to the moulding. Moving further along, the actual motor bogie is hidden inside here. Now, that is visible through the first set of windows and the door, but it has been thoughtfully coloured quite dark, so it's not too noticeable, and they've made full use of the guard's compartment as well to try and hide that as much as they can. The driver windows are also as per the prototype, and you can see the cab interior in there with the kind of ship's wheel, which does look a little bit peculiar, but certainly a feature of these long-lived units. On the end, this particular unit has the destination blind with 50, and we've got all of this corridor connection for these to work in multiple with other units. And one of the things that I'm thinking of doing is pairing the class 410 here with one of the class 411s and very quickly making up a prototypically correct 8-car train. Now these also would work sometimes with the class 419 motor luggage vans, and you could quite easily and prototypically make up a 9 or even 10-car train, or even longer at times. And certainly for anybody modelling the Southern Third Rail Electrics, this is something which they do have quite a charm to them, and I really do like the Southern Region green. We've got factory fitted all of the jumper cables. These are separately fitted parts, as you can see there, and look at the detail there. We've got the tampo printing underneath, and then the detail parts are fitted at the factory over the top. We've got the windscreen wipers on the driver's compartment there. I think that's actually the guard's compartment with the handbrake. So looking to the other side, we've got the driver's compartment with the windscreen wiper, obviously very important for the driver to be able to see out the front. Perhaps not so important for the guard to look back along the line that's just been. But these featured a corridor that kind of divided these two compartments. More separately fitted detail parts here. Orange handrails, they really do stand out quite nicely. Guard compartment has the bars on the window, and we've also here got more of the printing, load 1 ton distributed. And I don't think these are separately fitted details. There was a phase where separately fitted door handles crept into some of the rolling stock, and I think they kind of added cost without really bringing any benefit. And you can see here that very careful decoration shows that this relief detail is more than good enough for the job. These handrails are separately fitted. They're metal, so they're really nice and robust. And again, I do like these bogies. They've got this very, very substantial slab-sided with the rivet detail, and a lot of things like the collector bar. It's all picked out here in the different colours, and you can see the collector's shoes as well are represented underneath. Moving further along, again, a lot of relief detail on the underside, and it is handed to so it is correct to each side of the coach. Looking further along, you can see we've got the tables in there. I do love these curtains. They really give a certain something to this. And then we've got the no smoking lozenges there at the end. The S61394 running number for the carriage. Looking to the roof, even though these were Mark 1 stock, we don't have the ribs that the earlier Bachmann Mark 1s had, but we do have all of the ventilation detail on there. And then looking to the back, again, a combination of moulded on detail and some separately applied. Again, the handrails metal, and we've got these solid plastic concertinas between the two. Looking at the back here as well, you can see we've got a current collection from all these wheels and bogies, and then we've got the kind of kinematic coupling, which we're kind of used to on all of the coaching stock, but this includes a really handy 2-prong connector, and when it comes to fitting these, you can see out of the bag we've got this solid bar with the tails on each end to go into those pockets, and then you'll see the connectors sprung loaded on the top either side. So you need to make sure when you plug these in that those spring pins go to the top, and then it's just like plugging in any other coupling. I tend to find get these set up with the coupling bars all at the same end as per that diagram that we saw before, and then you can assemble these either on the track one by one, or I actually find it helpful to assemble the full 4-car set as a 2 and a 2, and then carefully connect them together on the track. Looking to the other end of the train, we've got the other driving unit. These are much lighter, and you can see that we've just got the pickups on the two bogies. Again, we've got the correct setup of underframe detail and the correct internal layout of these. Different running number, and again we've got that driver's cab, all of that separately applied detail. I do love these fronts actually. The full green ends really do bring this alive. On this end we've got the dual bars, and then we've got the guards compartment, and again that smooth roof. It was something that BR was quite proud of. It's butt welding, so the really quite substantial ribs were a little bit too obtrusive. Now, for me, the highlight of this, because I've had a Class 411 since not that long after they first came out, the buffet cart is what really makes the Class 410 stand out. So I've just got this out of the box, and again we've got all those curtains, but again full internal detail of the buffet, the counter in there, some of the tables and seating. We've got curtains in the windows, and it looks to be some kind of like a little kitchen area, because if we look through those windows, there's a corridor down the side, and then we've got the kind of whited out windows, and I suspect that there was like a small kitchen area in there as well. Tables at each end to some degree. I'm just looking in there, it's quite hard to see. Yeah, I think there is a table in that end. It's quite an interesting layout, and you can just see the counter. Now, these all have internal lights, so we will get a lot more detail once it's on the track. We've got the pickups on all the wheels, which means that, I'll be honest with you, I see no reason whatsoever to fit this unit out with a stay alive. It just will not need it. And the final coach here is the TCK. Again, I love those curtains. We've got the lozenge there for the first class, and only the one no smoking compartment. It just shows a sign of the times. This livery from the 1950s, early 1960s, and most of the first class is where you could smoke. That is just, it's hard to actually quite comprehend these days just how freely people would smoke. And even when I was young, smoking was still quite common. You had smoking areas in restaurants, on aeroplanes, and if you turned up to check in late, the chances were the only seats left were in the smoking area. And it's quite horrible if you're a non-smoker travelling on a 4-hour airline flight to somewhere in the smoking area surrounded by chain smokers. But I don't know, it's kind of, it was par for the course back then. Again, we've got different underframe detail, and this is something that's carried over. I don't think we dwelled too much on the underframe detail. It seems to be the area where these really do stand out. On that buffet, you can see all of the appropriate underframe detail, and then we've got this TCK with the corridor on one side, and it's quite noticeable. No curtains down the corridor. We've got all of that internal detail. It's where these models really shine. The Class 411 as well, we've got this quite detailed interior, and if you want to add people, then none of these actually screw in, they clip in place. Now I'll show you how to get into the motor unit, the actual motor unit for DCC fitting, but taking the bodies off any of these others is exactly the same. So as a detailing project, maybe get yourself a couple of packs of sitting down passengers, and because these do have a coach lighting that is controlled from the decoder, it's certainly a great little project to populate them, because you will see them as it goes round on your layout. The Southern Region Green, for me, is actually one of the most attractive of the British Rail liveries blue-grey, and in my opinion the green ones of these are my favourite, even though blue-grey is more fitting with the period that I personally model. Now if you don't have third rail electric, I wouldn't worry about it. I don't have third rail electric, and I quite happily run these on my layout. If it really does bother you, then stick a class 419 on the end and have them maybe being dragged between areas on battery power, or maybe even pair them with a locomotive double heading, something like a class 33, and you could imagine these being moved away from the juice for whatever reason, maybe as a diversion. So there's plenty of possibilities. For DCC fitting, you don't particularly need any special tools. The body itself is held on by clips down each side, so if you go looking for screws you just won't find any. And we've had that similar to this on previous models. If you don't have long fingernails, you're just going to need to get yourself something plastic. Don't use a screwdriver because you will damage the finish on the model. And as you can see there, I'm just getting my nail in underneath, and you can start to lever the body away from the chassis. Once you've got your fingernails in there, or your plastic mobile phone opening type tool, then it's just a case of gently teasing the body side apart. If you need to, slip something like business cards in. People always give you business cards. It's a great place to make use of them. Slide them up and you can work your way along the coach. Although I find that if I just then bang my knuckles on the desk with the sides just pulled aside a little bit, you can see we've started getting the body to come out. I'm going to turn it round. And again, repeat the process at the other end. They can be a little bit stubborn. Once they start to come free, you can work them a lot more readily. This one's proving just a little bit resilient. There, you hear that click, and then the entire body starts to move. Just make sure all the clips are disengaged down the full length. Just work slowly and methodically. And there we go. So looking inside, we've got that lighting bar that runs the full length. This isn't connected by wires. We've just simply got the tabs at one end, which correspond with the tabs up here, which are just hidden away inside the corridor section. We've got our motor here, and you can just see there we've got our blanking plate, and I'm going to actually at this point just use a small jeweler's screwdriver and just place along the edge of that and just ease it one side then the other. You don't want to bend these pins, otherwise you'll make your life a lot harder to get the decoder in. And then I've chosen the 21 pin Trainomatic decoder. I would just make sure that we line up the pins, and it shouldn't need force. It will just slide down with a gentle pressure, and it's as simple as that. If you're wanting to gain access for the speaker, to actually fit a speaker, this doesn't come with a factory fitted one. There's just these 3 screws to remove the seating, and then this just lifts out. There we go. And then the speaker itself will just sit making contact with these speaker contacts. If you use something like one of the iPhone style speakers or a Sugar Cube speaker, and it should just fit into this recess that is ready made for it into the seating. And it's quite clever actually, they've used that as the resonance chamber. So really clever way of mounting the speaker into there. This is also an ideal opportunity to add any seated passengers that you might wish to, and actually don't have many, but Tramfabrique very kindly sent over some figures, and these are really nicely painted, although you don't have a lot of leg room at all. In fact, it seems too much of a shame to amputate the legs off this. I might just keep this for elsewhere, but this is the ideal opportunity to add passenger figures to your model, and then when you're done, just make sure that we have the front end matching up with the cabs. Drop the body down. You may find it easier just to get the one end in first, and then it's just a case of, again, carefully manipulating each side until it drops in. And you'll just hear a click, and that'll all go into place. We can then take this to the programming track. You only need to put this part of the unit on the programming track. It will function on its own, and we can program that up. You don't have to put all 4 carriages together on that programming track. By default, that decoder will be set to address 3, and we can change that to whatever address suits us. For me, I go with the tops class 410, and then I'm going to use a number 1 because this is my first class 410. If it was a class 411, I would choose 4112 because I've already got one, and that's just how I use my numbering scheme. Or you could go off the number on the side of the model, but personally I think the tops class with a number after it is more helpful, and that works for all DMUs and EMUs. Coming to put them together, what I've done is I've laid them out like this, one above the other, and I've connected the coupling bars in ready. Just going off this, now the buffet car, that's the correct way round, with the large blank bit towards the right hand side. If I turn that over, you can see how different it is, so we can match it up to the image there with that. And the TCK, just look for the doors, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's what we've got here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're wondering, the other side of that just has the 3, and that's how we can tell the which way round these connect. Now you do get plenty of these bars. You can see there's actually enough to do the whole unit, again, nearly twice over. They're very generous with those, but you only need 3. Don't put them in the other end because you just don't need it. This is where things can get just a little bit fiddly. So we've got our DCC fitted driving unit, and the next one behind it's going to be the buffet. Now it's practical enough to take both of these and just connect them in the air. So what I've done is I've got a pair of pliers now. I'm just going to pinch the last little bit up, and there they are. So these two are now connected together, and I would recommend turning your layout off when you're doing this. I'm now going to connect the TCK and the other driving end, and again I'm going to do this exactly the same way. I can hold these in one hand and just use a pair of pliers to carefully pinch these up. I've got those together now, and you can see why it's important to have your layout turned off when you do this. And what I'm going to do next is I've actually saved some of the foam that TMC sent this packaged with, and I've cut it into a couple of strips. And I'm going to place this alongside, and I'm going to tip the model over onto its side, onto there. And that then gives me access to the underside, and I'll just slide those together. But at the same time, we're not going to damage the model by it scrubbing on the ballast. And again, just going to use a pair of pliers just to pinch those together. I'm happy with that, got that done. And then I can very carefully just roll the entire unit over, get rid of the foam, and then we're going to work to get these one at a time onto the track. And once we've got it all on the track, then I can turn the layout power back on, which I've done. And then I'm going to show you the lighting functions first. If truth be told, this is actually the hardest thing I've ever had to film, to be able to show you guys. It's just so long. You do get a lot of train for your money. But I'm going to start now. I've got it programmed up, and I'm going to turn the headlights on. And you can see those come on. Now, one of the odd things about this is to be able to get it to show a red light at that end, we have to change the corridor connections. Now, it does come with the spares to do this, but it won't show a red light at that end if we change its direction. If we want the interior lights, now depends entirely on which decoder you're going to use. The Trainomatic one, the interior lights are actually on F3. So I'm going to turn them, you can see on and off, and they are independent of that front light. And those are all the lighting functions that are going on this. F3 controls the interior saloon lights for the entire train in one hit. So it's all on or all off. And then when I'm happy, we can set the train in motion. When it comes to running, the model is a very sure-footed performer. Here on Weir Yard, it took in the main lines effortlessly, and even though there's only a single power bogie for the full 4-car train, it wasn't bothered by any of the gradients, and it handled the twists, the turns, the double slips, the scissor crossings, and all of the other point work with the greatest of ease. I've even had it running through some of the more unusual parts of Weir Yard, and it just took everything in its stride. On gradients, the model did start to struggle when I sent it up the 4% grade, and you could hear that that single motor bogie was starting to slip. But it's something that if you want to add extra performance, then either pair this up with something like a Class 33 for some loco hold action, or maybe even consider pairing it with one of the Class 411s that TMC has in its autumn sale at just a shade under £200, and that's somewhere in the region of half of the RRP of the new versions of the Class 411 that have come through. I've seen a few people say that a 12-coach train really does work well, with 2 Class 411s and the Class 410 sandwiched in the middle. If you set the DCC decoder address to exactly the same as each other, these models perform really well coupled together, and it really does make a great looking commuter train that would be equally at home down on the south coast rolling into Littlehampton, or rumbling into some of the London termini. Functionally, the Class 410 and the Class 411 are exactly the same. Where it's different is that the Class 410 has the buffet car, while the Class 411 features this ordinary car. The other items in this 4-coach train are exactly the same, albeit that the Class 411 is presented with a small yellow panel, and that includes the first class yellow stripe on the first class part of the car, although the Class 410 does have marked first class areas, but these are just denoted by lozenges on the windows. When it comes to price, the Class 410 is listed in the TMC autumn sale at £274.99, which is a substantial saving over the model's RRP. The Class 411 is an even greater buy. At just a shade under £200, this really is a substantial saving over the RRPs that Bachmann have recently announced for the latest batch of these models, albeit in the refurbished variety. In my opinion, it's a great way of adding a great length commuter train for the London and South areas to your layout. You get an awful lot in the box. It's a full 4-car train and really does feel a substantial value for money bundle when you get it arrive through the post. Buying 2 or more of these does allow you to make up an 8 or even a 12 coach train, and this is entirely prototypical as the real units were often run together and the corridor connections would allow passengers to egress down the entire length of the train. So a class 411 coupled to a 410 and then another 411 on the back would be perfectly reasonable, with all the passengers able to move through to make use of the buffet in the centre of the train. You can also add in the class 419 models that Bachmann do, and these will brace this up for one of the Southampton boat trains, providing extra luggage capacity, and these were favoured by the drivers as they also provided a lot of extra kick in the power department, having extra traction motors on that short single car motor luggage van. So we turn now to the scores. First up is build quality, and this is pretty good. There's no detail that came loose with the handling, and certainly it does feel a nice substantial model, and I particularly like the security of all that extra detail that is applied to the fronts. All in all, pretty good. I'm going to give it a 9.6. On running quality, the unit did perform better than expected. In fact, both the 410 and 411 do, despite that single motor bogie. And over the point work, scissor crossings and double slips, it performed really well as well, with only traction starting to break free when it was tasked with an unprototypical 4% grade. So I'm going to give this a 9.3. On DCC fitting and innovation, I do like the fact that it only needs a single decoder to be able to make full use of the entire 4-car train. That's much better than we saw with the 108s and the 105s from Bachmann, where multiple decoders had been required. Getting into the model is a little bit tricky, with those clips being quite fierce and taking a little bit of work to get free. There is a risk of causing damage if you're not careful. So all in all, I'm going to give this an 8.7. On accuracy and quality of finish, it really is a great finish that is applied to these. Even the underframe detail is carefully picked out in the appropriate colours, and really there's nothing to fault. I also really love those curtains inside these, and they bring these units alive. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. On value for money, the prices that these are being offered for with the newest releases from Bachmann do seem very expensive, but these bargain releases from the TMC sale really do bring that price down, with just a shade under £200 for the Class 411 in both blue, grey and green. And the Class 410 is coming in at £274.99, but this is much more recent tooling and hasn't yet had a number of different releases. But at £274.99, it is definitely offering a substantial saving over the original RRP. And I'm going to give this an 8.0, giving it a total score of 45.6. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'd really love to hear from you in the comments section down below just what you think about these models. Certainly the Class 411 has been available for quite a few years now. The 410, not quite as long, but certainly a very valuable model release for prototypical accuracy. Have you already got some of these? And maybe you've got some hints and tips on getting the best out of the running, and maybe some upgrades. What have you done to increase the functionality of these models? Certainly I've seen people use flash units to kind of mimic that sparking effect that these would make as the collector shoes zipped from one collection rail to the next. And there's probably some really great methods out there to be able to replicate that on your layout. If you know how, do share your knowledge in the comment section down below and help out your fellow modeler. And of course, as always, we've got a link in the description which takes you to where you can find these models for yourself. The 410 is available at £275 just under, and the 411 is down at just a shade under £200, with both blue grey and southern region green available. But until next time, this is me, Johnny Kirk, saying please like, share, subscribe, ring that bell. Check us out over on Patreon, help support the channel, and check out the full merch store as well. We've got some great goodies in there too. But until next time, this is me, Johnny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling, bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.